Some breaking news here. Tragedy on the tracks in Europe. At least 4 people are dead, including the conductor, when a train in Spain derails in the northwestern part of that country. About 50 others injured. No word on what caused this. One passenger reported the train started swaying side to side ahead of that accident. More on that as we get it here.
What we have here is the use of an unclassified system by hundreds of people in our government to send information that was not marked. There were no headers. There was no statement, top secret, secret, or confidential. I communicated about classified material on a wholly separate system. I took it very seriously.
So that was Hillary Clinton with yet another explanation into the email scandal. She's had several versions of that, and there really isn't any disputing that. She said she thought the C's meant they were alphabetized, yet there was no A's and no B's. Her husband said she thought that the C's meant phone calls she had to make. So right now, we're learning that the Justice Department has cut a deal with the person who was responsible for deleting the Clinton email archives. They gave him immunity from prosecution. So what do you need to know about that arrangement? Trey Gowdy is a member of the House Oversight Committee and chairman of the House Select Committee on Benghazi, as you know. Chairman Gowdy, good to have you with us this morning. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
All
you.
Right. So take us through this in terms of your understanding of this individual. We know Brian Pagliano, who set up the server in Chappaqua. We knew he got immunity. Now we know that the other guy who worked at Platte River Networks, which was this outside server company, completely outside of the United States government, he also got immunity. What's up with that?
Well, it depends on what kind of immunity he got, Martha. There are 2 kinds of immunity. There's use immunity and there's transactional immunity. And if the FBI and the Department of Justice gave this witness transactional immunity, it is tantamount to giving the trigger man immunity in a robbery case. I was stunned when I read the New York Times article last night. And by the way, the same reporter who broke the article last night is the guy who broke the initial email story. So I'm inclined to believe it unless there's evidence to the contrary. But it looks like they gave immunity to the very person you would most want to prosecute, which is the person who destroyed official public records after there was a subpoena and after there was a preservation order.
Yeah, so I mean, this is the Platte River Networks individual who claims that who told the FBI in February when they spoke to him that he didn't recall deleting anything. Then in May, he comes back, and we have a timeline we can put up on the screen on this. In May, he says, oh, yeah, I did delete them. I did delete them. He says, in fact, I was told in 2014 that I should delete a whole bunch of stuff off of the server, the Clinton server, that we had, residency of, so to speak, and I forgot to do it. So then I went back and I deleted it all. And oops, it turns out that when I did delete it all, that was after there was a subpoena to retain everything. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, the devil's in the chronology. You're exactly right. Keep in mind, the story broke about her email, and then there was a preservation order, and then there was a subpoena, and then there was her press conference, which has been thoroughly and totally debunked. All of it was demonstrably false. And then there's a conference call between David Kendall, Cheryl Mills, and Platte River. And then emails that have been in existence for 5 years, emails that he's known about at least since December of 2014. He decides to delete sui sponte, just all on his own. And that defies logic why some techie in Colorado would, despite a subpoena, despite a preservation order, but after a conference call with David Kendall and Cheryl Mills, decide on his own that he is going to destroy public records. And then you grant this person immunity, which means perhaps that he cannot be prosecuted. The Comey's already said he's not going to prosecute anybody. We need to ask the FBI, what kind of immunity did you give? And why did you give it to the trigger man? Why did you give it to the person who actually destroyed government documents?
And then, as you point out, we go back to the words of the FBI director, James Comey, in July. 3 days after he spoke these words, 3 days after the agents had sat down with Hillary Clinton and basically got up and said to the American people, the evidence showed potential violations of criminal statutes, but that he did not recommend pursuing any charges. He said that they could not find a case that would support bringing criminal charges on these facts, despite the fact that this information would constitute, in many people's minds, an effort to obstruct justice. No?
Well, it was an effort to obstruct justice, and of course he said he couldn't make a case because he couldn't prove intent, which is not an element of the offense. And part of the way you prove criminal intent, Martha, is the destruction of evidence, the consciousness of guilt, the multiple false explanations for why you did something, which are legion in this case from Secretary Clinton and others. Even this witness can't get his story straight. And these are the two people the FBI decides to give immunity to, Brian Pagliano and this guy at Platte River. If it happened, those are the two that you would want to prosecute. So you're giving immunity to the trigger people, and everybody goes free.
So just to sort of remind people of some of the facts here, none of this would matter. If this were Hillary Clinton's just her personal email on here, and she had a server for some reason in Colorado, none of it would matter. But she made the decision as Secretary of State to commingle her work stuff with her personal stuff. So that now makes that Platte River server government property, correct?
Yes, we could care less about her yoga emails, Martha. Trust me when I tell you that. We don't care about the personal emails. But the work-related emails are government records. That is government property that she decided to handle in a completely unique way. And then when she left the State Department, she didn't return it to the State Department. She kept it. And only after Congress started asking about it did she decide to return some of it. Now we know tens of thousands were deleted. And now we know, even after Congress specifically said preserve it, after a conference call with her lawyers, somebody applied a product called Bleach Bit to make sure nobody can ever read it.
So why would the FBI be okay with this person destroying evidence?
Because they guessed wrong. That's why. They got it wrong. They blew it. They gave immunity to the trigger man. That's why those of us who used to do it for a living didn't like to give immunity. That's why you never heard me calling for giving Brian Pagliano immunity. You better be right on who the trigger person is. You better be right on who the culprit is if you're going to give transactional immunity. And if that's what they did, then they immunized the one person that you would most want to prosecute for the destruction of government records. Yeah. It is frankly stunning.
It is stunning, and it is surprising. Usually you would give immunity to people who you would think were giving you information that would allow you to prosecute someone else, right? But then once they decided that that wasn't going to happen, these guys got off scot-free.
You don't give immunity, this is Prosecutor 101, you don't give immunity to the person who actually robbed the bank. You may want to give it to the getaway driver, you may want to give it to the person who helped them count the money afterwards, but you don't give immunity to the person who walked in and robbed the bank. Yeah. That ain't that complicated, but that's apparently what the FBI did.
And we know that James Comey came out with a statement, sort of bolstering what they did and how they arrived at their conclusion the other day. So there is an effort to save face, some might say.
It ain't working. It ain't working.
All right. Trey Gowdy, thank you. Always good to have you with us, Chairman. Have a good weekend.
Yes, ma'am. You too.